Barbie, a true American icon, a toy so popular it's been part of pop culture for almost 60 years. Launched in March 1959, Mattel has sold over 1 billion Barbies. There are countless versions, and over 200 can be found right in this room. This is Diana's cool collection of Barbies. This room is amazing. There are so many dolls in this room. How many dolls are in this room, Diana?
About 250, and most of them are in boxes.
And what started this? When did you first start collecting?
Well, I always loved Barbies as a child, and it wasn't until I got out of college and had a little disposable income that they had started a collector's club. So I started buying from the catalog.
Now, is it true that you rebought all the Barbies you had as a kid?
Yes, that is true. I had about 13 Barbies as a child. As with most families, they're passed down to my younger sister and promptly destroyed. So over the years, I have gone on eBay and found all my original Barbies from the early 80s still in their boxes.
There are lots of kind of Barbies. There are vintage Barbies. There are holiday Barbies. There are Silkstone Barbies. What is your thing?
I like the designer Barbies for their clothing. Designers being clothing designers that women wear, like Dooney & Burke, Christian Dior, Oscar de la Renta. Then the stores, a lot of stores put out custom dolls, Bloomingdale's, Macy's, Gap, you name it. And it's about the clothes. It's all about the intricacy and the level of perfection they put into as if they are making a woman's garment.
How's the best way to display these?
Well, it comes down to, first of all, a lot of the Silkstones don't have plastic across them, so you have to keep the dust off of them, because anyone will tell you who collects the vintage dolls is that dust erodes the plastic over time. So those have to be kept behind glass. So I bought glass cases for those, which are inexpensive. Anyone can have these at IKEA for $79.99.
Like any collectible, conditions everything. And some of these are in sturdy cardboard boxes and some are purely plastic. What are some of the challenges with these plastic ones?
Well, the plastic ones, as you can tell, are flexible and they can get dented in shipment, and then this plastic doesn't bounce back. So once it's dented, it's permanently damaged. And some of them actually, they made them harder plastic in the 90s, they actually crack from heat during shipment. So you have to be really careful when you're buying off of eBay to check condition before you buy them.
Like a lot of toys from the 50s and 60s, there are a lot of reproductions out there. And I see these look like vintage dolls. What is the story behind these, and how can you tell the difference between a true vintage doll and things like this?
Well, the reproductions obviously come with the plastic boxes. They never would have come in boxes like this before, but they all are the original reproductions of the clothing, that these are all actual outfits from that time period. Obviously, when they're in the boxes, you don't have to worry because they'll have their dates of when they're produced. But when they're not, which you end up at a lot of shows, they're out separately, the dolls, you have to check for copyright on the back of the doll's body to make sure that you're getting an original from the 60s versus the reproduction.
But if you had to run in here and grab 5 dolls, what would those 5 be?
It would be hard, but I would have to take at least one of the Russian Silkstones that the Collector Club put out a couple years ago. Those are Silkstone. I probably would take one Silkstone out of the holiday series, probably Halloween, as she's really well done. And then I'd have to pick probably Ferrari from a designer standpoint, and maybe Oscar de la Renta and Christian Dior.
Mattel's business model was to get you to buy one doll, then to buy all the accessories that went along with those dolls. That would be clothing, cars, display cases, carrying cases. And then as Barbie got more popular, then there was all these other licensing for other products that came along with it. Now I see we've got a nice display here of various things that you collect, and I know there's other stuff around the house here too, but what is it about what we're seeing here that you really like?
Mostly everything on this table is vintage, beginning to mid-60s, and most of it's vinyl. And vinyl is one of those things that's really hard to find, like the lunch boxes or some of the things for going back to school down there with the pencil cases in good condition, because over the years it just doesn't hold up. So when you find it, you have to grab it. So I concentrate a lot on the vinyl, and of course all the cases are made of vinyl also. And this particular case is quite a rare item because it's actually two-sided and it has a chair inside, so you can see that there's a Barbie in there. It was for Barbie was going to Europe. So she was driving on one side and she was flying on the other. And inside, this is one of the few cases that had the little chair inside. So she sat inside, and then you could still put all her clothes and her, or maybe a friend who came along. I think definitely the car. They made a number of plastic cars at the time for Ken and Barbie and Midge and everyone to, go about town. And this particular one is from the late 50s, I believe. And this one actually has a vintage Ken driving it.
This is an awesome collection. All these licensed products, the display case, the accessories, the stuff upstairs. You just have an amazing collection, Dinah. What advice would you give somebody starting out for their own collection?
Well, obviously, if you're starting out, you're starting for a reason. So maybe it is that, like I was as a child, you love Barbie. So maybe you start there with what vintage you're familiar with. Like I was a child of more the 80s, and then the 90s is when I started collecting. So I really identify with those dolls. But I definitely check out doll shows in my local community, because you'll find just avid collectors from all different periods of time there with all different kinds of accessories and dolls, which can kind of help you hone which direction you want to go in. Obviously, they still sell Barbies today in all stores everywhere across America. I also look at Craigslist online, because you do have more one-on-one contact with people and you run into a lot more collectors. That should help you just get to where you want to be.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing your collection. This is awesome. If you have any questions or would like us to highlight your collection, just email us at thosecollectorguys@gmail.com, or you can find us on Facebook or Twitter. And remember, always surround yourself with what you love.